Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to do a wonderful video about text structures for you so that you could get a good idea about what nonfiction text structures are and be able to use that as a stepping stone and a cheat sheet for when you go ahead and read text structures or read different nonfiction texts. So the question that you're probably asking is, what is text structure? And that is just how the author decides to organize information in a text. So you could have an author be like, yo, I want to compare the Celtics and the Knicks, and so they're going to write a compare and contrast essay. But if they just want to describe the Celtics, then they're going to write a different type of essay. So for you as a reader, the question that you're probably asking is, well, why is it so important for me to learn about text structures? Well, it's important for you to learn because once you have that kind of outline of what type of text structure is going to include what details, it's really easy for you to be able to break down the text and analyze it. So this is just kind of a cheat sheet for you to help you along when you're reading nonfiction texts. Now, I keep saying we're doing this for nonfiction texts. Kids always ask me, well, Miss Rathaus, is there a text structure for fiction texts? Of course there is. It's the plot diagram that you learn, and fiction texts really focus on that plot arc, and so this is just a little different. This is for nonfiction texts, so that when you're learning about nonfiction texts and reading facts and dates and things that are true, then this helps you with that. So there are 6 different types of text structure that we're going to be going over today. The first type is description, and if you look in the word description, there is the root word describe. So description obviously describes something. So in your little Frayer model, make sure that you have that description describes something. It can be a person, it can be a place, it can be a company, it can be pretty much anything as long as it's just being described. So if you look at the map that you see here, it's going to typically be used a bubble map to organize your information after reading. When you describe something, you can describe what it looks like, sounds like, what examples of it are. And then if you look down on the bottom, these are your signal words that you're going to be using for description. So if you see any of these words in the text, a lot of times that'll give you a clue that this is a descriptive text. So the words for example, or this is, or this has, or have, all of that kind of shows you that this is going to be a descriptive text. I also want to let you know that descriptive essays are usually in essays, news articles, or various nonfiction texts. So you can have any kind of text that describes it. It's just going to be a descriptive nonfiction text. The second time, ladies and gentlemen, let me get some coffee. It is early this morning. Okay, so the second type is compare and contrast. So comparison and contrast compares the similarities and the differences between two things. And your signal words are in this Venn diagram that you see on this slide. So you have compare, which has words like same, alike, similarly, and then contrast, you have different, less than, more than, however, on the other hand, on the contrary. All of these are great signal words that will help you figure out that something is a compare and contrast text. These are usually used in essays and news articles. So you might compare the damage that we've seen from Hurricane Irma, to the damage that we saw from Hurricane Harvey. So those are how you could compare and contrast that. The third type we're going to talk about is sequence, and that's when you have a series of steps or just a series of information. Our signal words are on the bottom. There's 2 different graphic organizers you can see with it. You can just have a list. So this would be more of like if you have a recipe, that's a sequence that you have to follow. First you mix the flour with the sugar, then you add water, then you put it in the oven. I don't know if that's actually how you cook things because I don't cook, but you have a series. You notice that I used the words first and then finally. Also, I like this graphic a lot for sequence because it shows you that sequence can apply to things that aren't just aren't just baking or cooking, but also to the life cycle of things. So a lot of times when you read about the life cycle of stuff in your biology or your science classes, that's where you're looking at a sequence. You're looking at how things start their life and then how they grow into something else. Problem and solution. Problem and solution is really simple, but kids always get it confused with cause and effect. So problem and solution is when an author identifies a problem and a solution for that problem. Your signal words are down on the bottom, but really they're going to give you a problem and then tell you how they think it should be solved. This is a better kind of graphic for it because it shows the signal words not just for problem and solution, but also for the evidence that an author is going to provide. So most often an author's not going to be like, climate change is a problem, and not provide any evidence. So these are words like as a consequence, or this led to, or so that. That's all showing you evidence that provides evidence for that problem. Again, it's way before coffee time this morning, so bear with me. Cause and effect is the one that gets confused with problem and solution a lot. The cause and effect map is really simple. Your cause is in green over here. And then the effects of that cause are over here. So a lot of people think that cause and effect is the same as problem and solution, but it's really not, because you could have good causes that have positive effects. So for an example, to use the hurricane example, you could have a Boy Scout troop has a meeting about fundraising for hurricane victims. And then your effects from that meeting could be they set up a GoFundMe page, or they set up a canned food drive, or they set up a toy donation. And all those effects are from that cause of them meeting to talk about the hurricane's damage. And then finally, we have this listed on our graphic organizer, so I just want to make sure that you know that there is another one that might not sound like some of the other ones, and that's order of importance, and that's what the author believes is most important. So this is tricky for students because they think, oh, well, I don't agree with this author. You don't have to agree with what they're saying. Just understand that an order of importance text is going to have words that show that the author thinks this is more important than something else. And they might list them, or they might just have things like that. Some of your signal words would be above all, most importantly, least of all, or least important. And those are used a lot of times in news articles. So just keep that in mind. These are your text structures. Again, we had description, we had sequencing, or chronological order, if you will. We had compare and contrast, we had problem and solution, we had cause and effect, and we had order of importance. If you have any questions, ask your ELA teacher. She's pretty awesome. Okay, and that is all. Have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen.